Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. In the recent Team Go Rocket Takeover event, there's one Pokemon that was released that is on the forefront of everyone's mind. That Pokemon's name is Shadow Greninja. Now, Greninja itself was already an absurdly attack-weighted Pokemon, but the Shadow variant just does illegal amounts of damage, and I'm not even going to keep you guys too much longer. Let's get right into the battles with game number 1, leading Greninja into an Ampharos. This is an absolutely terrible lead, of course, so I am going to have to save switch into my Florges. Florges baits out a Bastiodon. What an inventive team from my opponent. I've never seen anything like this. I am going to go for a Chilling Water. Chilling Water lands onto the Bastiodon. Bastiodon now going to be hit with a second Chilling Water here, and this will actually do a substantial amount of damage onto the Bastiodon, and we are actually going to get them down to about 50% health there. They are going to be able to fire off a move, but if this isn't a Flash Cannon, which they don't run, we are going to be in a really good spot. I now pivot out into Gourgeist. Gourgeist, if they decide to stay in and throw a Flamethrower, I'm actually very happy with just soaking this damage and continuing to build up energy with Gourgeist. They go for Flamethrower. In comes Ampharos. Ampharos catches us in the middle of an Incinerate after throwing their own Volt Switch, and they are going to be able to fire off a Brutal Swing. I'm going to go for the undertap of the Shadow Ball. I'm at 100 energy. 100 energy means I have to throw some energy right now, and I'm able to do just that. Shadow Ball lands through the shield of the Ampharos. Ampharos decided not to shield it. The Seed Bomb goes through, and they are going to bring in a Azumarill in the back. This is the worst possible Pokemon for Greninja to see. Or is it? I'm firing off the Night Slash. I have one win con here. We get the boost, and now Greninja is off to the races. Azu is really going to not appreciate the fact that its pacing is so absolutely terrible, and we are just going to continue to overfarm. Here comes the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon, how much damage do you guys expect this to do onto the Azumarill? Azumarill nearly getting KO'd there, and now I'm going to go for a Night Slash. I really hope that this KOs the Azumarill, but I am +2 and a Shadow Greninja. Shadow Greninja grabs the shield with the Night Slash attack boost once again. We are now 4 stages boosted in our attack, and what does my opponent intend to do here? Greninja Water Shurikens down the Azumarill. Bring back that Bastiodon. We just want to have a word with him. We're going for the Night Slash. Night Slash onto the Bastiodon, grabs the shield. We have the Hydro Cannon loaded, and Hydro Cannon is going to be more than enough to KO the Bastiodon. At least I think it's fair to say so at +4 attack from a Shadow Greninja. Get into the next game. It is going to be Shadow Greninja leading into Shadow Marowak. This actually is not as good of a lead as you might think it is. I'm going to fire off 4 Water Shurikens, then switch, attempting a catch of a Bone Club onto Gourgeist. Unfortunately, Gourgeist is only going to be catching a Rock Slide as my opponent holds on to their energy. And now we are going to be greeted with a Furret. Furret, definitely not the best Pokemon for me to see right now, but I am going to be able to do some pretty decent damage to it with double Seed Bomb, as well as the Incinerates landing are going to put a decent chunk into this Furret. Furret is now very low on health. I think I can bring in Greninja, but Shmeaty of the past has a different idea, and we are going to bring in Florges. Florges going to be able to absorb the double Swifts here, as the Furret did leave with 2 moves, so I'm going to have to no-shield both of them, because I don't really want to go down a shield with a Shadow Greninja. I think that is definitely the Pokemon I want to invest my shields in, and after seeing their last Pokemon, I think I have definitely made the right decision. Going for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze connects onto the Jellicent. If I'm able to grab a shield here, I'm going to be in a really nice spot. I have a Night Slash banked. Jellicent is very weak to the energy from the Greninja. Jellicent just straight up decides to get KO'd, and now we're bringing back in the Greninja. Greninja going for the Night Slash. Night Slash is going to do some massive damage onto the Marowak. Marowak, unfortunately, is going to be able to farm us down. It doesn't matter the fact that I had the move there, because we were just taking too much damage from the Mud Slaps, and surprisingly, the Marowak game is going to be the first loss. Not the best case scenario, but it is what it is. We are going to see a Shadow Torterra on the next lead, and that is definitely a terror for this team to see. I am going to have to safe switch into the Florges immediately. They are going to opt to go for a Sand Tomb bait on my Florges. Not the best case scenario. They bring in their Togekiss. Togekiss, definitely not what I was hoping to see right now. This is indicative of the fact that this is going to be that one Jonkus team that I do not like very much, and there's going to be a Bastiodon in back of this Torterra. Nevertheless, I am going to have to no-shield here. They go for the Ancient Power. That is an interesting play. Bring it in the Gourgeist. Gourgeist going to take super effective damage from the Pex, but it's not going to do a whole lot of damage thanks to the fact that Gourgeist is, or rather the Togekiss is debuffed. They go for the Ancient Power. We escape without even taking 50% of our HP. And we've got a pretty sizable amount of energy with our Gourgeist. Speaking of sizable, I am running the Super or Jumbo Gourgeist. I think that's the double XL one. Apparently you want the not as big one as mine, but still big. So just wanted to throw that out there. That's some information I haven't been able to cover because I have absconded from Great League because of teams just like this one. Anyway, Torterra comes back in, goes for the Sand Tomb, and now back in comes Bastiodon. We have a Night Slash and a Hydro Cannon. If my opponent no-shields this Night Slash, I lose. Night Slash grabs the shield, and now we have the Hydro Cannon. How much damage is this going to do onto the Bastiodon? This is a very bulky Pokemon. Bastiodon able to hang on just barely, and unfortunately, this cringe Junkus team is going to be able to take the W here. We were one Incinerate off of a Seed Bomb there, and that would have gotten the knockout. If I ever see that cringe nonsense on my screen again, I will forever run Clodsire in the back of every team I run for the remainder of the season. Bastiodon is cringe. Nerf it immediately. Anyway, we are going to lead Shadow Greninja into a Swampert. Swampert shields up early, and they're going to fire off a Muddy Water, which drops my attack. Now I'm going for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon not going to be enough to KO now, thanks to the fact that they got that Muddy Water debuff. Now I'm going to bring in Gourgeist. Gourgeist going to be met with a Bastiodon. John Niantic Hanky, what did I just say? Get this off of my screen immediately. Gourgeist going to slap back with a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball going to do some okay damage on to the Bastiodon. Bastiodon now going to be able to fire off a move here, but I am going to be forced to no-shield it, and it is just going to be the Stone Edge. What is my opponent doing? I'm able to make a Shadow Ball. Bastiodon players playing with their brains off for the entirety of games. That is not a surprise. What is going to be a surprise is Greninja looking to get the farm down. Not going to be able to get the farm down of the Bastiodon. In comes the Swampert looking to land some Hydro Cannon damage. Maybe incentivizing us to condition us to no-shield the Muddy Water earlier on in the game there. They are going to bring in Hypno in the back. And now Hypno definitely not going to be hip to the fact that we have multiple Night Slashes here. Night Slash number 1, massive damage onto the Hypno. And I've got Night Slash number 2 locked and loaded. Hypno is approaching on having another move here, so I am going to fire off one further Water Shuriken, get the boost, and now I get another Night Slash off onto the Hypno before they're even able to throw energy. Back in comes that Bastiodon, but not for long. Hopefully that trainer changes his team. Getting into the next game, Cringe on the lead, as it is going to be Wigglytuff up against our Greninja. Immediate switch out into the Florges. Florges going to fire off an immediate Chilling Water. Chilling Water here, of course, going to be able to drop the attack stat of that Wigglytuff so that the charms are not nearly as oppressive, and they are going to bring in Gastrodon. Gastrodon going to be able to do some pretty decent damage onto the Florges here with the Body Slam, so I am going to shield it up. I go for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze onto the Gastrodon. I built up to 7, and they decide to no-shield it, thinking that I was going to fire off a Moonblast that they can live, but they get farmed down quickly after. This is now a boosted Chilling Water, and a boosted Chilling Water is going to do quite a bit of damage onto this cringe Marshmallow. They are going to switch out. In comes Marowak. Marowak, now I have to throw in my Greninja, and if they play into this CMP Tide, they are going to lose it, so I get to get this Night Slash, I get to grab a shield, and now I can just let go of Greninja because I have a very good answer to this, and I have gotten a shield back. We are in the 1-to-1 shield scenario, which isn't the best. They don't undercharge the Bone Club, which is an even worse play because they could have looked to potentially get some energy there. They throw their energy on alignment, my opponent making every single misplay possible, but I guess that's pretty commonplace in Shmeaty Elo. I'm going to fire off a Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb onto the Marowak will deliver a knockout, knocking out the Marowak. Back in comes the Wigglytuff. Not for long. They realize their team is absolutely cringe, and they are going to go back into the lab and make another one. Annihilate, a terrible lead for the Greninja to see, so I am going to save switch into the floor, just once again firing off a Chilling Water, but I fired off on poor timing. Man, I'm pretty bad at this game, aren't I? Chilling Water going to land onto the Licky Licky. This should help us snack 2 balls. I am going to fire off yet another Chilling Water, and now I'm going to definitely be a ball snacker. Chilling Water number 2 going to do a pretty decent amount of damage onto that Licky, but now the real task is going to be tanking the Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam connects for substantial damage onto the Florges. I'm going to fire off 4 Fairy Winds and go for a Trailblaze. It does hit slightly harder than the Chilling Water. I boost my attack. Can I get the farm down? I get the farm down of the Licky, and switch advantage is now ours. And that is very impactful as they have an Annihilate on their team. But now their Annihilate doesn't have to use 0 brain cells and put themselves on our Greninja, and instead they have to find their way out of this matchup up against the Gourgeist. Gourgeist tanks a Rage Fist for absolute days, but they are going to switch into Aurorus. Aurorus, maybe not the Pokemon I want to see right now, going for the Seed Bomb, half damage onto the Aurorus, bring it back in the Greninja. Greninja, this is only a Weather Ball, but Greninja is so frail, and it's a Shadow Aurorus with a relatively respectful attack stat of its own that I am going to be forced to fire off a move there. If I decided to go for a further Water Shuriken to get the full farm down, I would have ended up getting KO'd. So I need to be able to get rid of this Annihilate shield here. Night Slash number 1 grabs a shield. Can we get a boost? No boost for me. Can I get another Night Slash? No second Night Slash for me. Back in comes Gourgeist. Gourgeist looking to make another move here, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The Annihilate is very loaded on energy, and they are at the back-to-back moves, so they're going to be able to fire off a Rage Fist. Well played with the energy management from this opposing trainer. No cringe nonsense on that team. I'll tip my hat to them. Getting into the next game, it is going to be Greninja leading into a Florges. This is unfortunately not the best lead ever, so I have to save switch into my own Florges, bringing in the mirror down energy. Generally not an advised play, but I feel as if it's what I have to do. Another Trailblaze will KO, and my opponent did not get the full sneak. I can decide to put up a shield here if I so choose, and maybe even look to grab a shield or switch advantage. Unfortunately, no such luck for me. I am going to bring in Greninja. I let go of the Hydro Cannon on my Florges, and it gets KO'd. Back in comes Greninja. Greninja going to have to be shielding up the Hydro Cannon or the Drill Peck there. They, of course, will go for the Drill Peck there as it is going to be neutral as opposed to resisted. I am going to go for a Night Slash as the Empoleon makes another move, and I am going to be able to get that knockout, but no boost for me. They bring back in the Florges. I knew they were going to do this, and so I decided not to throw a Water Shuriken and to under-tap my Hydro Cannon. And now we bring in our Gourgeist. Gourgeist is going to be able to hit for super effective damage onto the Corviknight. They do not have enough for a payback here, as they switched in after I switched in my Gourgeist, and I had just thrown my third Incinerate, so that's not going to be enough for the payback. I don't have to respect it. They do get the boost, however, and that is going to be a massive amount of damage onto that Corviknight. I decide to shield up the Gourgeist, as unfortunately for them, if they are on the standard moveset for Florges, they are going to end up getting hard-walled by the Gourgeist. They are going to go for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze means that I am going to be able to send in Greninja. They have to throw more energy pretty immediately here, so Greninja going to be able to get KO'd by that Trailblaze, but that's actually to my benefit as they don't have another move yet, so I'm going to fire off the Seed Bomb. If I get the bait call correct here, I win the game. We have the Shadow Ball loaded, and unfortunately, since they never threw a Chilling Water, not that it would matter because we switched out, they are going to get KO'd by that Shadow Ball. GG's to them. Getting into the next game, what is this on the lead? Shadow Greninja leads into a Pancham, and I thought my opponent may have been throwing, but no, that is a fully XL Pancham. See, this is what the interlude season is all about. Stop running the cringe Basti Wiggles teams. Start running some more Pancham. Pancham gonna force me to switch out, as unfortunately, with the amount of energy they had, that was a lot of tackles. I don't know how many tackles, but that was a lot of tackles. They might have a fighting type move, maybe a Brick Break, maybe a low sweep. All I know is that from a Pancham, probably still gonna KO the Greninja. So I am going to safe switch out into my Florges. Florges met quickly with a Clodsire, but I went for the immediate Trailblaze. And the immediate Trailblaze is interesting because what that's going to allow me to do is go for double Chilling Water, and double Chilling Water will be enough to knock out the Clodsire. Because of the boost that we got, now these Chilling Waters are going to be hitting for big, super effective damage. I decided to go for another Trailblaze, maybe thinking that it was going to be enough to KO, but it is not. The Clodsire holds on 1 HP, and my greed cost me most of my Florges. In comes Feraligatr. I don't really have anything I can afford to switch in right now, so I have to just let go of my Florges and get fully Shadow Claw down. Never the best case scenario, I am going to shield up my Greninja, as I feel like this is my best way of getting rid of this Feraligatr. I throw intentionally on alignment there, because one more Water Shuriken and they would have another move. so I am going to wait a turn, then switch into the Gourgeist. They did get the, or rather, we did get the Night Slash boost, but I believe keeping the Greninja alive is a little more important, so I decide to fire off my Seed Bomb immediately. I have to do so in order to get this Pokemon off of our screen, but they have done so much damage to us. It is now all up to our Gourgeist to clutch up this end game. Is it even going to be possible? I go for the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb may not be enough to KO the Pancham. Pancham survives on very low HP, and they get a 1 HP survive. And with all the energy the Pancham has banked all game, I believe they are just going to be able to have a fighting type move here. Indeed, they do have it. What is the fighting type move? It's a low sweep, and we lose to a Pancham. You know what? That is pretty characteristic of me. I'm not even gonna lie. Getting into the next game, Shadow Greninja leading into a regular, not Shadow Greninja. So we are going to stay in here, and I don't think I'm ever going to lose CMP. I'm 1500 combat power, but that's not necessarily indicative that I have a good Shadow Greninja. I just, like, it was like literally the first one I caught, and it just happened to get to 1500, and I was like, you know what, sold. I am going to build up to a Night Slash and then catch. This would only ever be a Night Slash. Why would they throw a Hydro Cannon here if a Night Slash is going to KO? So I switch out, catch the resisted Night Slash, and now I'm going to go for a Chilling Water. This is a different scenario, and I am going to need to land a Chilling Water pretty immediately here. It's not going to save me from a potential Earthquake, but I am just going to let go of the Florges here. They go for a Sludge Bomb. That is not the best, as they get a farm down as well. And now I'm going to bring in Gourgeist, but Gourgeist is also going to be hit with a Sludge Bomb from the Clodsire. Clodsire at -1 attack, not necessarily the most threatening thing ever though. So I am going to build up to my Shadow Ball. They do go for the immediate Sludge Bomb. They were on their 5 cycle, but ended up throwing their Sludge Bomb on alignment. Now we bring in the Greninja. Greninja looking to get off the back-to-back Night Slashes. Night Slash number 1 would do some damage onto this Clodsire. They are going to get KO'd. They bring in their Corviknight, and now have they been keeping track of our energy? This is only a Night Slash, but they shielded up anyway, and now they are going to be able to Sand Attack down. That is the first time Corviknight has ever accomplished that feat in its entire life. I am going to now bring back in the Gourgeist. Gourgeist hits pretty hard with the Shadow Ball onto the Corviknight, and I do have 2 shields. I'm looking to overfarm as much as I can. Cannot afford to give this Greninja enough energy to make another move, so I am going to go for the Seed Bomb. They decide to shield it up. They get KO'd without making their next move, and that is a rookie mistake. They know I have the Shadow Ball loaded. They top left. GG's. Getting into the next one, and we are Greninja maxing, as it is going to be Shadow Greninja into another Greninja. This is the second one in a row. This is going to be a fun game. Greninja going to go for the immediate Hydro Cannon. Once again, I'm not losing CMP. It's just not going to happen. They are going to fire off a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon hits for some substantial damage. I decide to save switch out into my Florges, and in comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion not going to have the most fun when it does see my backline, but in the meantime, it's going to be having to shield up these Chilling Waters. I go for the extra Fairy Wind, and if this is not a Blast Burn, I am going to be able to shield it, or rather no shield it, with ease. I decide to go for the 2 Fairy Winds and a Chilling Water, but I think I'm 2 more off. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to survive and Incinerate even with this debuff. Can I get it? I decide to switch into the Greninja instead. Greninja going to force energy off of the Typhlosion. What does Typhlosion decide to do here? If they stay in, they're going to lose CMP. I go for the Hydro Cannon. In comes Miltank. No shields remaining on my opponent's side, so Miltank going to take 50% of its HP from the Shadow Hydro Cannon, and that is a very bulky Pokemon that could have given us a lot of problems nearly out of the way. In comes Gourgeist. Gourgeist going to have to tank probably an Ice Beam, but they're on Thunderbolt. They don't have Ice Beam, so I am going to commit to the full farm down. Although I'm over 100 energy here, I'm still fine with going for this farm down. The reason being is because Gourgeist is going to be able to tank the Thunderbolt, and if it was an Ice Beam instead, I would have been able to survive that as well. Now, we get to land the Shadow Ball. They caught it onto the Greninja, but it doesn't matter. We have another Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball going to KO the Typhlosion. GG's to this trainer. We've now made it to the final game of the video where our Shadow Greninja is going to be committing war crimes as it leads into a Talonflame. Talonflame is going to stay in up against the Greninja. How weak in the back can you possibly be, trainer? We are going to fire off a Night Slash. Night Slash does massive damage and gets a boost. Our attack is boosted. Our opponent may be trying to call a cheeky Night Slash bait, but it doesn't matter if we're just going to be boosted anyway. In comes Credilli. Credilli is going to be on Bullet Seed, maybe attempting to get our Greninja off of the field, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to stay in, go for the Night Slash. Now I have a Hydra Cannon on the CMP tie to their next move, and now if they no shield it, this is going to be a massive amount of damage. Where did their Cradily go? They are going to fire off a move. I no shield it because Greninja has more than done its job, getting 2 of their 3 Pokemon down to 50% HP. If Florges and Gourgeist together cannot get rid of whatever it is they have in back, they are absolute frauds. In comes Talonflame. Talonflame not going to be able to get the catch that they wanted there. In comes the Jellicent. We have the back-to-back Shadow Balls here, and this is going to do a massive amount of damage. We just decide to bank 100 energy, then bring in the Florges, going for a Chilling Water bait. Not really a whole lot that my opponent is going to be able to do about it, though. They decide to call the bait there. That's a very decent play by them, but they're going to end up losing CMP in the end game up against the Gourgeist anyway. They go for the Shadow Ball. We are not going to be able to snack 2 balls, but we are going to be able to get off this Trailblaze. Trailblaze onto the Jellicent will do a massive amount of damage. They decide to no shield it, and we can get the Fairy Wind farm down. Absolutely devious. GG's to this trainer. If you guys made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. Shadow Greninja, I honestly would go as far as to say that you guys are going to want to make sure that you grab one. It's the only Shadow from this rotation, I guess outside of Shadow Gyarados, that I think is mandatory for everyone's repertoire. And you'd probably be doing yourself a disservice by not having one. If you're unable to get a good IV spread, I understand that pain, but it's still worth removing frustrations from the Greninjas and Froakies that you are able to get from this event, and then proceeding to hold on to them until the Kalos Tour, so that when the Kalos Tour comes, we can evolve to get Hydra Cannon. That is my best recommendation. I think this is an insane Pokemon. It does insane amounts of damage, and you are definitely going to want to experience it. But with all that being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.